Great Smoky Mountains, the secret inside America's most visited park. Every year, 13 million people visit Great Smoky Mountains National Park. That number is not a typo. 13 million. More than Yellowstone and Yosemite combined. More than any other national park in the United States, by a margin that is not close. Great Smoky Mountains has held the top position for over 2 decades, and the gap between it and the second most visited park has never meaningfully narrowed. And yet, ask most Americans what they know about it. The answers are vague. A mountain range somewhere in Tennessee. Fog, maybe. Bears. This is the paradox at the center of America's most visited park. It is simultaneously the most attended and the least understood. Millions of people pass through it every year without knowing what they are inside, without knowing what the smoke is, without knowing what lives in it, what it contains, or what is quietly disappearing from it. This is the story of the park that hides in plain sight. The smoke. The smoke is not smoke. Every photograph of Great Smoky Mountains shows the same thing. A blue-gray haze sitting in the valleys between ridgelines, softening the peaks, giving the entire landscape a quality that reads as atmospheric and ancient. Visitors assume it is weather. Morning fog burning off. Low cloud cover. Humidity from the surrounding region. It is none of those things. The haze is produced biologically. The trees, primarily the park's vast stands of deciduous hardwoods and conifers, release volatile organic compounds called isoprenes and terpenes as a byproduct of photosynthesis. These compounds react with atmospheric oxygen and water vapor to form tiny aerosol particles. The particles scatter blue light, and the scattered blue light produces the haze. The Smokies have been doing this for millions of years, long before any road ran through them. The Cherokee people, who lived in this landscape for thousands of years before European contact, called the mountains Shakanaj, a word that translates approximately as place of the blue smoke. The name was not poetic. It was observational. The Cherokee were describing a biological process that Western science would not formally explain until the 20th century. The smoke is real. It is alive, and it has been rising from these mountains longer than any human civilization on this continent. The crowd, AND where it isn't. In peak season, Newfound Gap, the park's main through road, experiences gridlock. Cades Cove can take up to 4 hours to drive on a busy weekend. Laurel Falls fills early and stays crowded all day. These are not Smoky Mountains problems. They are corridor problems. Of the park's 800 miles of trails, most visitors explore only a small fraction, leaving hundreds of miles through remote forests and high ridges nearly empty. Some trails see fewer than 100 visitors in an entire year. Step off the corridor, and the park becomes something unrecognizable from the one being photographed from car windows. The biodiversity. Great Smoky Mountains National Park is, by a significant margin, the most biologically diverse temperate zone national park on Earth. Not in the tropics, in the temperate zone, in the eastern United States. A park covering roughly 800 square miles contains more tree species than all of northern Europe, more than 1,500 flowering plant species, over 240 bird species, 66 mammal species, over 80 reptile and amphibian species. The salamander count alone, 30 species, exceeds the total found on any other comparable landmass anywhere on Earth. Scientists refer to the Smokies as the salamander capital of the world. This is not casual hyperbole. It is a technical designation based on documented species density. The reason for this concentration comes down to geography and geological history. During the last ice age, the Appalachian Mountains acted as a refuge, a corridor running north to south, along which species retreated as glaciers advanced from the north. The Smokies sat at a critical latitude. Species from both northern and southern ecosystems converged here and stayed. The park's elevation range intensifies this further. From approximately 800 feet at the valley floor to 6,800 feet at Clingmans Dome, hiking from the valley to the summit is, in ecological terms, roughly equivalent to driving from Georgia to Canada. As of the most recent all-taxa biodiversity inventory, researchers have documented over 19,000 species. Scientists estimate the park may contain over 100,000. Less than 20% have been formally identified. The old growth. Great Smoky Mountains National Park preserves the largest expanse of old-growth forest in the eastern United States. Approximately 25% of its forests, around 100,000 acres, have never been logged. The result is a forest with structural complexity that managed or second-growth forest cannot replicate. Standing dead trees provide cavity nesting habitat for dozens of bird species. Fallen logs support over 2,000 documented species of fungi, many found nowhere else. In the Albright Grove along the Madron Bald Trail, eastern hemlocks and tulip poplars reach heights of over 150 feet. Some of the tulip poplars in this grove have trunk diameters approaching 6 feet. They are, conservatively, over 400 years old. They were saplings when Shakespeare was alive. Most visitors to Great Smoky Mountains never walk to them. The trailhead is not on the main corridor. The grove receives, in an average year, a few thousand visitors, in a park of 13 million. The crisis. In the 1950s, a fungal pathogen arrived in the eastern United States, most likely on nursery stock imported from Asia. Its target was the American chestnut. Within 50 years, it had functionally eliminated one of the most ecologically dominant trees in the entire eastern forest. 4 billion trees. Gone. The American chestnut went from comprising roughly a quarter of the eastern forest canopy to near total extinction in the wild within a single human lifetime. The Smokies lost theirs with everyone else. But the fungal pathogen was only the beginning. In the 1980s, an invasive insect called the balsam woolly adelgid began attacking Fraser firs, trees found almost exclusively on the high elevation ridgelines of the southern Appalachians. By the 1990s, the adelgid had killed the majority of mature Fraser firs in the park. The upper slopes of Mount LeConte and the ridgeline approaching Clingmans Dome, once dense with living fir forest, became landscapes of gray standing timber. Ghost forests at 6,000 feet. Then the hemlock woolly adelgid arrived. Eastern hemlocks, the species that dominates the park's stream corridors, began dying. By the mid-2000s, hemlock mortality in some sections of the park exceeded 70%. The Park Service response became one of the most intensive conservation interventions in national park history. Individual trees were treated with soil injections. Predatory beetles from the adelgid's native Japan were released across the park. Volunteers trained in species identification were deployed across the trail network. The hemlocks are not fully recovered, but in the groves where the intervention came early enough, the trees are still standing. The cloud forest. Above 5,000 feet, the park enters cloud forest. These ridgelines sit inside the weather. Cloud immersion, direct contact between vegetation and low cloud, occurs for more than 200 days per year at the highest elevations. Trees absorb moisture directly from the passing cloud rather than from rainfall alone. In some seasons, cloud contact delivers more water to the canopy than precipitation does. The result is an ecosystem that looks and functions more like a temperate rainforest than anything the word Appalachian typically suggests. Moss, ferns, lichens, and liverworts cover every surface. The understory is continuous and dense. The light, when it penetrates, is green and diffuse. This remote terrain supports a black bear population of up to 2,000 individuals. GP's tracking studies have documented individual bears traveling up to 30 miles in a single night across these ridgelines, covering distances that would take a fit human hiker several days. They do this routinely, mostly unseen, through terrain that the fog and the difficulty of access keep largely undisturbed. The 700 miles of trail that see fewer than 100 visitors annually, the old hemlocks, the cloud forest ridgelines, the waterfalls with no signpost pointing toward them, are not hidden. They are simply waiting for someone to walk toward them. 13 million people visit Great Smoky Mountains every year. Most of them see the corridor, the Gap Road, the most photographed viewpoints. And they are not wrong. Those places are real, and the park that contains them is extraordinary. But the biodiversity capital of the temperate world, the salamander density, the cloud forest ridgelines, the old growth groves that predate Shakespeare, all of it is also in there. In the same park, past the same entrance gate. The secret is not hidden. It is just waiting for someone to leave the road behind. If this changed how you see the Smokies, the guide linked in the description has more. It covers the backcountry permit system, the old growth trail list, the high elevation routes that put you above the fog line, and the seasonal windows when the corridor crowds thin and the park reveals what it actually is. Click the link below to get started.